How do you indicate on a resume that you supervised 10 employees in a department during multiple times that directors were being fired and hired? Daisy, I would not go to that level of explanation in a resume. Let me say it this way to you. Your resume, there are a couple things that you need to recognize about your resume. And Daisy, by the way, this is not personal to you. This is very common. It's very common with individuals I coach one-on-one. It's very common with people who ask questions inside the Mile Walk Academy. It's very common in the questions that I get on YouTube. People, I need you to understand this. Your resume, first things first, is not a work history document. Okay, it is not. It is a marketing document. What you want to do is you want to put yourself in the best light and advertise yourself for where you want to go. Okay, your past certainly enables you because it has the raw data that you need to take to put into the resume. But you need to think forward and then look at your resume and ask, is this resume going to get me where I want to go? What happens is we are all emotionally attached to the things that we've done in our lives. And I cannot stress enough how unattached and unemotional I am as a reviewer or anybody else that looks at your resume is. No one cares what the stock market was doing. No one cares how bad a company you worked for. No one cares how hard you work. No one cares that you put in 16-hour days. No one cares that you worked weekends for a year. Okay? You care because you lived it. And now you want to share that with the world. But no one is going to be as emotionally invested. No one is going to feel your pain, especially for something that happened 3 years ago. So don't you try to channel all your emotional efforts into wanting to articulate every single thing that you've been through, no matter how bad it was or what a feat it is that you think it was, because people were getting fired, people were getting laid off, the market was going down, so I had to make twice as many sales calls or whatever. Just stick to highlighting very positive stuff. If you're trying to go through detailed explanations in your resume about how bad an environment you were in or how awful your boss was or any of that stuff, you are inviting negative discussions in the stories that you will ultimately need to tell at some point if you are fortunate enough to get an interview. So stay away from all that. So Daisy, back to you. Just talk about how you manage the employees. Do you know what I want to know about how you manage those employees? Did they do their job well? Was the team united? Did you get 10 people to operate like 20 people could because you had them humming? Did they get promoted on your watch? Those are the only things I care about. The only things. So that's the stuff you need to draw my attention to. Get me excited about what you can do and what you did, and don't drag me into all the turmoil you were in. That it just you don't need to be there. You don't need to take me there. I'll never get there as emotionally as you will. So Daisy, this has nothing to do with you. I'm just saying, everybody, we all want to share what a Herculean effort that was, but no one cares. Right? You've heard me say this before about, hello, welcome to the town of, no one cares, population 7.7 billion, right? And I'm just saying, you need to detach yourself from that, put a marketing document together that's going to get you to where you want to go, and focus on all the positive stuff that you've done. That's the best advice I can give you. That's reality. Now, all that aside, I care about you. I love that when people show up. I love when you need my help. I love that I can be able to help you. But that's the cold, hard truth about how people look at resumes. So think about that. Look at your resume. Is it filled with a lot of stuff that would invite a discussion that you're going to have to take me into how bad something was? That's not where you want to go with your stories. And one other thing, and I don't want to go into this too much, but there is a congruence in what you do in your resume, and it doesn't start with your resume. It doesn't even start with your work history. You have to go back and reflect about what was happening, the data that is important to be sharing, not only in your resume and in the stories that you're ultimately going to have to tell in your interviews, But you need to think about if the resume is a marketing document and it's going to get me in front of somebody where I can sell me and my services to them as an employee, I'm going to ultimately have to tell stories as well. Are the stories that I'm going to be sharing congruent with the stories that are on my resume? And are the stories that are on my resume congruent with where I want to go? You have to look at that. All that needs to be in order. You can't have a work history that is not advertised in the way to the spot you want to go. If you're a career changer, you have to figure out how to adjust what you put on your resume to tell an accurate story of what you can do based on where you want to go. All that stuff needs to be thought through. So what is it you need to collect? The stories, those scenes from your work history that are going to go on your resume, that are going to turn into stories that you're ultimately going to tell. So think about what you're putting on your resume, because you need to be thinking about that with the future in mind, that I'm going to be in front of somebody explaining this story. That's what you want to tell. All right, I hope that helped. I know that was probably way more than you were wondering, but I think it's important that you know I would try to stay away from those kinds of stories in the resume, in the cover letters, in the emails. I would not be bringing that stuff up. Hope that helps.